guys, I'm back. I know a lot of you guys have been missing me. I've been getting DMs like, where have you been? Why haven't you uploaded? Why aren't you uploading every single day? And I don't think you guys realize it's not as easy as it seems, okay? This lighting, I know it's not perfect. I usually use my sister's study lamp, or I've been using her study lamp for lighting, but apparently she has exams and has to actually study, so now I have some other weird light thing going on.
No one has suffered like I have suffered.
And so yeah, because I'm just going through this difficult time, and I know a lot of other people are too, I was thinking that instead of talking about my fall wrap-up from last year, which, as you can tell from my videos, I don't care about the books that I have been reading, I thought we could all talk about something that I know and love like the back of my hand. And no, it's not Buffy, but it's like, I know these things almost as well as I know Buffy. So, these are books that I read from kindergarten through 5th grade that have really influenced my reading tastes. And even if you see like the books that I talk about now, you'll probably understand like why I'm into a lot of the genres and stuff that I am into. So starting off, I have some honorable mentions, which are books that I loved but probably didn't influence my reading taste as much, are the Wrinkle in Time series and the Austen Family Chronicles by, I'll put her name up here, somewhere. One of these places her name will be, because I don't know how to pronounce it. But these were like sci-fi fantasy books, and also the book When You Reach Me by Rebecca, am I pointing at it? Rebecca Stead is right there, and it's also influenced by the Wrinkle in Time series, and it's about time travel, and that is, actually, you know what, maybe this shouldn't be on honorable mentions, because time travel is one of my favorite tropes in sci-fi, so maybe this should be on the actual list of books that are not honorable mentions. But I've already talked about them. So, yeah, that stuff. And then Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Bradley Pearson. I don't remember what happened to these books, but I know that it's now a musical. And so I probably should listen to that at some point. And then there was The Penderwicks by, I'll also put her name here. It'll be here. And then also any book by Roald Dahl I really loved as a kid. So actual books that had like an impact on my reading tastes. The first one would be the Nancy Drew notebooks. I know like everyone's heard of Nancy Drew. You probably recognize these covers, right? These are like the most popular. These are Nancy Drew mystery stories. And this is when she's grown up. This one is also Nancy Drew Girl Detective. That series is also from when she's grown up. But there's also the set of Nancy Drew books, like the series, that takes place when she's 8 years old, and it's her, Bess, and George, which are her two best friends, and they just like go around and solve mysteries on the playground or whatever. One of the first books that my mom ever read to me was a Nancy Drew notebook, and I don't remember what the mystery was, but I do remember that the answer to the question was in a carousel. That's all I remember. That's all I remember about that book. This book got me obsessed both with reading and the idea of solving mysteries. Like every single year during the Scholastic Book Fair, I would buy all those like mystery detective kits. I had the rear view glasses. I had a fingerprint kit, multiple fingerprint kits, obviously. I had so many invisible ink pens. Oh, and then when we got walkie-talkies in 6th grade, me and my friends would like pretend to solve mysteries. So yeah, that was just a genre that I got really into because of these books, probably. And for the longest time, I wanted to be an FBI agent or a spy or something. So those were kind of my introduction to reading. The other book series that I read around 1st grade was the Magic Treehouse series by Mary Pope Osborne. I feel like almost everyone has heard of these, probably. It was about these two siblings, Jack and Annie, who find a magic treehouse in the woods, and it like whisks them off to different places and times. And so this was my introduction to both historical fiction and fantasy, both of which are still some of my favorite genres today. Magic Treehouse books there was like the Morgan Le Fay ones when they first started coming out, and then after a while they had the Merlin mysteries as well. I am a hardcore fan of both of them. Like the Morgan Le Fay books had companion novels as well that were nonfiction, and I remember after reading the Twisters on Tuesday one, I went and found the nonfiction version, and I just learned so much about tornadoes and about clouds and like weather. And I was obsessed with tornadoes, especially for years of my life. I wanted to be, what do they call it? A meteorologist? I'll put the word up here. Yeah, and then my favorite Merlin mystery is the one about the World Fair, where they go around and they try to find Louis Pasteur, they find the Eiffel Dude, and 2 other people. But I thought that one was a really cool one. That's when I learned about vaccine development which was it vaccine development or penicillin? I don't remember. It was a fun time. I think that they just introduced me to such a wide variety of topics. Again, they sparked my interest in history, and then combined with fantasy, I don't know, I love them. In second grade, my best friend and I got obsessed with Little House on the Prairie. This series follows Laura Ingalls Wilder and her family, basically from her childhood to her married years. I did kind of have a confusing relationship with the series because I don't think Laura, like the author herself, held these ideologies, but a lot of the characters in the books held like very sexist and racist ideologies. Also, it was very confusing because they called Native Americans Indians, and I just kind of had an identity crisis reading these books because I didn't understand the difference in second grade, and then I was like, what am I? But that's a whole other story. And especially because some of the characters, like Ma and Mary, were very racist. So yeah, that was a fun time for young me, but whatever. I do remember, okay, my main criticism of the series that doesn't have to do with a lot of the ideology is, okay, most of the books are good, right? But you're following Laura and her life. So you have Little House in the Big Woods, which is that one with the green border, and then you have Little House on the Prairie, which is the orange border, and then the third book is Farmer's Boy, and it doesn't even follow Laura, it follows her husband as a child. But at this point in the series, we haven't been introduced to, his name is either Alfonso or Almanzo. I don't remember. It's been, literally, I haven't read these in second grade. And all of a sudden, you follow her husband, and I don't care. And then after that comes, obviously, without a doubt, the best book in the series, which was On the Banks of Plum Creek. That's the one with the little purple border. And the reason this was my favorite book was because on the cover, you see their house kind of underground, built into the hill, and then there's a river nearby, or a creek, I guess, Plum Creek. So that was obviously the best book. But then, like, you could argue that the next one after that, which I think had the red cover, On the Shores of Silver Lake, that also was a really good one because that's when I learned about scarlet fever, which I believe took Mary's eyesight. And I didn't like Mary as a character. I thought she was very annoying. This is really mean to say because I guess this is her this is based off her real life. But you know what? I didn't like Mary. And then she was blind. And I was kind of happy about it. I'm not going to put this in the video because, wow, that's really petty. But that did make On the Shores of Silver Lake the best book in the series, if not for On the Banks of Plum Creek. And then I don't really remember the rest of the series. There's like These Happy Golden Years and The Last 4 Years, or The First 4 Years or something. Anyways, so at some point after this, Laura meets her husband, and then she has her daughter Rose. And okay, here's the thing. Farmer's Boy could have been put at the end of the series, right? After Laura meets her husband, and we, like, see Laura meeting her husband. It was so stupid to put a third. Like, I almost lost interest in the series, but then again, I saw the cover of the fourth book, and I was like, I'm here for it. So that's kind of my relationship with that series. The next book series is, I think this is one that a lot of people my age can relate to, but the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. This is about the Baudelaire siblings who become orphans after losing their parents in a fire. And then they're like bounced around from like family to family, and just like different places as Count Olaf tries to steal their fortune. And I think the thing I loved most about this series, this probably resonates with a lot of people, but it was just very uniquely written. It was kind of like the author would interject as a person and give you all this information. I still remember that I learned the word rickety from The Bad Beginning, when the orphans are on the beach, but they don't know they're orphans yet, and it's like before Mr. Poe comes up, and you learn the meaning of the word rickety. And I loved that it was so gritty and so dark, but the author was able to maintain, not like happiness, but he was able to make it funny and enjoyable. It was never like too dark that you felt hopeless, at least not until like the 8th book. I do remember not loving, The Carnivorous Carnival, which is the 9th book, up until the end, which was the actual name of the 13th book. I don't think that I loved those books as much, but from the 1st through the 8th book, I was so hooked. Favorites in the series. Definitely The Bad Beginning. I think that was just one of the best introductions to a series ever. And then I would say that, what's the Academy one? The Austere Academy? Where they go to boarding school. I love boarding school tropes in books even to this day. And you'll see that in a second when I talk about a different book series. And then The Hostel Hospital. That one was, oh, no, the elevator one, number 6, that was so good. Because then that's when you meet Esme, I think. And the whole VFD thing really, like, starts to play out. And is that when they meet the triplets? I don't know. That one was also really good. And I just loved trying to unravel, like, the whole mystery around what was going on. And, oh my god, my friends and I were so obsessed with this book. Hold on a second. For one of my birthdays, one of my friends got me the Beatrice letters, which was, it's like all the top secret letters between Lemony Snicket and Beatrice. And it's like in code, and there's all these things that, like, we tried to rearrange this and find the secret message. And it was just, I loved this book series so much. So that is that situation. Cool. Moving on. I think I have 3 more things to talk about. My entire bottom shelf of this bookshelf right here, it's just these 3 authors and their books. So the first one is the Ramona Quimby books by Beverly Cleary. This was my favorite one, Ramona the Pest. I could talk about these books for hours, but basically they follow this girl named Ramona Quimby from preschool, which is when Beezus and Ramona is, when it takes place, up until 4th grade. I think about the end of 4th grade, which is Ramona's World. And then there's also the Henry Huggins books, because Henry was Beezus' best friend. And those follow Henry, and his adventures while he goes through, like, the paper route, and he's like a paper boy. And there's Ribsy, which is his dog. And you see, like, Ramona and Beezus in those too. But, like, my favorite ones were the, like, actual series about Ramona. I think the books kind of slogged in the middle, which is so dumb to say. This isn't the Wheel of Time. It's not like books 8 through 10, you know? But, which I haven't read, by the way. I've just heard that they call it the slog. But these books, I think Beezus and Ramona the Pest, this one was so funny. Oh my god. Just everything about these books was perfect. The fact that she named her doll Chevrolet, her whole thing with, like, getting stuck, these boots, remember it was rainy and then she gets stuck in them, and then I think Henry had to come and pull her out, and then she lost her boots because, yeah, she got stuck in the mud. I loved that Ramona had this, like, frenemy situation with Susan, who had the really curly hair, and Ramona always wanted to pull on the curls, and my friends had curly hair. And then around, like, Ramona and her father and Ramona and her mother, I started to get a little stressed out because she's just really, like, their family has financial troubles, and I just remember those books stressed me out a little bit. And the pot roast situation, I remember, like, my heart broke when Beezus and Ramona find out what the pot roast actually is made of, and they were just so mean to their mom. And yeah, so there's, like, a little bit of tension later in the series. But then towards the end of the series, there's, like, what is it, Ramona Forever, Ramona's World. I know there's another one. The purple book, Ramona Forever, ? When Aunt Beatrice gets married, oh my god, that just restored my faith in this book series. I loved it so much. But yeah, in general, I loved how quirky Ramona was and how relatable she was, but she also, like, matures over the course of the books, but she never loses her, like, her core personality that makes her exciting, but she kind of calms down, she becomes a better person. I just loved, like, the struggles with family and friendship. There was that one scene where Ramona learns the Star Spangled Banner. There was just so many things about these book series that were so relatable. And yeah, still, honestly, I kind of want to reread this entire series now. It's so good. I kind of forgot she had a crush on this guy, Davy. I don't think I ever cared about her romantic interest. Like, she's in kindergarten, nothing's gonna come of that. But yeah, it was so heartwarming and wholesome, and I love this book series. Okay, the next series multiple series. St. Clair's and Mallory Towers were these books about these all-girls boarding schools in England in a different century, not this century, and not the century right before this one, so some other century. Actually, it could have been the 1900s, but I don't think it was. I just love these books. There was just so much fun stuff about them. All the characters were so well crafted. I still remember, like, having intense, severe feelings towards these characters. Like, okay. Also, I read them so many times. Look at this. This is my 3-in-1 copy of St. Clair's. And that's chapter 6. This entire thing is falling out. Like, this is how many times I've read these books. I could look at a line right here and I'm like, Janet? I remember her perfectly. And there's Pat and Isabel. Pat is the spunky one, they're twins. And Isabel is a little bit more like soft-spoken. And also in book 4 of St. Clair's, when their American cousin comes to stay, I was like, oh wow, American people suck, because they thought American people sucked. It was so influential. Oh my god. And then like, you look at these, it's just, look, like even these teachers, like I haven't read these books since elementary school, but I can like, it just, everything just comes back to me. But yeah, it just, they felt like a real set of friends that you would want to have, like, or that you would have in school. And just like everything about these books made me, like, I wanted to play lacrosse because they played lacrosse. And the way they described midnight feasts was just so exciting. Like, they had a midnight feast every single book. And I always wanted to like sneak down and eat cream puffs, or like have a midnight feast with my friends, which is why I was so excited for college. But it turns out if you're like allowed to eat food whenever you want, I don't think it has the same effect. Either way though. That, and then, oh my god, in the fourth, I think it was the 4th St. Clair's book, when they had a midnight feast by the pool, that was just incredible. And I was like, okay, this book series was probably the first one I wrote fan fiction for, because I was so obsessed with these books that I would write like my own stories about boarding schools. There's something about this like all girls boarding school trope that I was just obsessed with. And then the last author, I guess, that was a really influential author for me during my childhood was E.L. Konigsberg. And most people know the mixed up, or it's called From the Mixed Up Files of Miss Basiley Frankwiller. And that is a book about 2 siblings who run away from home and they hang out in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. But there were 4 books in total that I remember reading when I was in elementary school. So it was that one which kind of got me into this author's stories. And then there's The Outcasts of 19 Schuyler Place, which was about gentrification. That's the first time I learned what gentrification was. There was The View from Saturday, which was about these 4 kids who are on a quiz bowl team, and it's really interesting how each of them has these different experiences in life that allows them to come together and answer these questions during a quiz bowl tournament. It's like a very simple concept, but it was really sweet, and I loved learning about the characters. And then there was probably the one that was the most influential on my reading tastes, and that was Silent to the Bone. This is about a boy who becomes selectively mute after undergoing severe trauma. It was really dark. Maybe shouldn't have read it in whatever I did, like 5th or 6th grade. But it really did make a big impact on me, and I think because of this book, I got into really dark contemporary fiction when I was in middle school. And like when I put out my middle school book series, you will see like I read some really dark things. Yeah, Silent to the Bone with like the whole trauma, and I don't want to spoil what happens, but that really changed my reading tastes for good. Like, I love dark themes in my books. I love not happy endings. And yeah. So anyways, those are just some of my influential childhood reads. I don't know, I guess I'm not really recommending these books because they're for kids, but if you want to read them, go for it. Okay, that's all. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye. Now I have all these random books down here that I don't know what to do with. So I know you guys think my life is perfect, but I'm really going through a hard time. I hope that you can sympathize with me. Go away. Okay, I can't even take this seriously.